Fillmore, I'm on it.
Fillmore was an interesting show, to say the least. For those who may have forgotten or who weren't around at the time, action comedy cartoons were absolutely everywhere in the early to mid-2000s, and Fillmore has always been a weird chapter in the history of that era. Its absolutely bizarre premise, that being CSI for kids, instantly sets it apart already, but as I rewatched the show I found out that this wasn't where its unique traits ended. Fillmore is more than just a set of oblique 80s cop show references. It's about a lot more.
More than that, I tell you.
And the way it handled what it was about was done with care and precision. So what made Fillmore different? Well, the most important thing would have to be the tone, how the show carried itself. Fillmore, while being a show about ostensibly normal kids, takes this opportunity to make it a show about people, about its characters. Why do people do bad things is a question brought up frequently, and the show makes it very clear that it's not always as simple as good and evil. The criminals of the week in Fillmore are almost always portrayed as sympathetic, or, at the very least, victims of an unfair system. One episode deals with a cabal of scooter thieves who do what they do solely to pay for their teacher's dog's hip operation. Characters in Fillmore don't have to deal with saving the world, and this shift from a macro to a micro setting brings into focus the kinds of problems that cause crime, even in the real world. The problems the characters are dealing with are things like relationships.
She was my friend, not Everett's. We were supposed to be best friends forever.
I know. We can make friends and we can break friends. Sometimes those things are in our control, and sometimes they aren't.
Anxiety.
I was scared, all right? Is that what you want to hear? I was scared.
Loneliness.
Ingrid, you didn't do it. Don't take the fall because of 100 fools who want easy answers. You've got a friend at X. Me.
You know, I was thinking, if one person other than the welcome wagon girl is the least bit nice to me by 2 o'clock, I wouldn't confess to doing something I didn't do.
I would have been here earlier, but I was busy trying to clear a friend's name.
The things real people deal with all the time. While Fillmore knows when levity is important and the show's sense of humor is absolutely top-notch, it handles its serious moments with finesse and care. In a way, this attention to humanizing a criminal frequently puts Fillmore above actual police procedurals. While I can't say that I frequently sit down to watch Law & Order or its ilk, I could think of more than a few episodes I've seen that are way more cartoony than most things I've seen on Fillmore.
They leveled up.
The other half of the thematic structure of the show is reform. Fillmore and Third are both ex-delinquents, and the show makes its stance on this very clear. People are more than the sum of their past actions.
The past doesn't equal the future, Parnassus. Judging people that way is easy, but it doesn't always lead to the truth.
Most episodes involve the perpetrator seeing the error of their ways. While there are plenty of episodes with strong villains whom you enjoy seeing get bested, these are almost always highlighting systemic problems or giving extra insight into the characters, usually both. There are a bunch of episodes dealing with this topic directly, but a personal favorite of mine is one early on in the show, in an episode titled
A Worm in Our Midst.
The episode deals with a large-scale book heist as its main plot, with the prime suspect being a habitual petty theft and extortionist named Tony Clementina, played deftly by Frankie Muniz of all people.
You could say we are what we are.
The subplot of the episode deals with Fillmore's reluctance to believe that someone can change, even if they've made mistakes in the past, the idea of a lost cause. The episode contrasts this with Fillmore's past delinquency, and how he managed to pull himself out of it. By the end, Fillmore understands that sometimes the key to reformation is to always be willing to extend a hand to someone, and that no one is truly lost. One of the things that really helps carry the tone of the show, of any show, is the voice acting. Fillmore sets itself apart from its contemporaries by its comparatively earthy and grounded voice work. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with having a childish or cartoony voice in a children's cartoon, but it sets a certain mood when such a sizable portion of your cast are basically using their normal speaking voices.
Listen, they're going to expel me and I want out. Why would I want to stay here?
She's racist and makes out with women and has a possessed hey nanner nanner.
Tara Strong is Tara Strong and doesn't really need much explaining, but Orlando Brown isn't someone you really associate with voice acting, but gotta hand it to him, he does an absolutely excellent job bringing life to Fillmore. I can't stress enough how important the voice acting is in carrying the tone of a show and how good a job the voice actors do in making it all work. When Fillmore gives an impassioned speech about the dangers of a prejudiced mindset,
But you just don't want to think. This person looks this way, so they have to act that way. They talk like this, so they have to do that. Life ain't that easy, man. You got to dig deeper. I wouldn't be here if someone didn't do that.
Hearing those words sound like just a regular person gives it a layer of authenticity that it wouldn't have otherwise.
You are now witnessing the day in the life with Orlando Brown. Wait, turn the camera this way. We going into work. This is my main man right here. Introduce yourself to the camera.
Despite how cartoony Fillmore may feel during its action scenes or the absurdity of its average plot, the core of the show is 100% authentic. It ends up being that the show is one of the most grounded of its period, second only to maybe Hey Arnold. As intelligent and highbrow as I'm making the show sound, it would be fairly dishonest of me not to talk about the more lighthearted aspects of it. Because the show is about middle schoolers, it has to get really creative with its action scenes. Said scenes are almost always chases, and it's tough to actually describe how inventive and hilarious the average one is in this show. Anything is fair game for a chase. A frozen ice sculpture garden, a human organ exhibit.
Fillmore, where are you?
Near the, liver?
Miniature trains. The tongue-in-cheek presentation of these scenes goes well to contrast the sometimes bleak backdrops of the stories. Levity is important, and this is still a kids' show.
Checkmate is the bomb, and he's full of wisdom.
But it's always something to look forward to, because you really can never tell how these scenes are gonna go down. Generally, I'd say the show is probably one of the most cohesive of its time.
Officer Fillmore, do you realize the importance of recovering that catalog of stolen term papers?
Do you realize your mama dresses you like a sofa?
There really aren't any superfluous characters. The other members of the ex-middle school safety patrol are all there to make it clear Fillmore and Third aren't the only ones there, but don't hog any more screen time than they absolutely need to. There's also a lot of attention to detail on things like continuity. Fillmore's pet goldfish, Thelonious, dies in one episode and is replaced by a black one, Miles, which you see on his desk for all subsequent episodes. Also, these pets are named after legendary jazz musicians Thelonious Monk and Miles Davis. Now, I'm sorry, I just feel it would be wrong to not mention that. But the point I'm trying to make here is this show feels incredibly focused. Perhaps a consequence of the serialized shows it's riffing on, but every episode of the show is a tightly made package, sharply structured with care. Every time. Start off with a parody of a real crime, kidnapping, gambling, whatever. Ask why someone would commit such a crime, throw in a few red herrings and a chase or two, wrap it up with a serious and somber message about how society can push vulnerable people to do bad things, and, put a red bow on it. It's done. Perfect. So I think that mostly wraps up everything that really helps make this show what it is. I'll be perfectly honest when I say it isn't quite at the absolute peak of its genre, and not every episode is created equal. But the show's unique qualities more than make up for that. There really aren't many shows willing to be as personable as Fillmore.
It has been said that grief is the agony of an instant, the indulgence of grief, the blunder of a life. One must say goodbye before anything becomes good again. Too much grief, not enough life.
Or it's cleverly written, or it's fully dedicated to what it's trying to be. It's a show with an identity like no other, a show that stands by itself with almost none of its contemporaries being able to even approach its style. The idea of a show this good being the result of a pitch that basically sounds like a joke is a testament to what strong writing and a solid vision can do. Whether you remember the show or not, I strongly recommend you go back and give Fillmore another look. You might just be surprised at what you find. Hopefully we'll even get an HD release of the show someday. Maybe the show was made in widescreen and broadcasted 4x3 like some of its contemporaries were. Anyway, with that, I leave you with the greatest closing sting in cartoon history.
I'll have feelings for you. Can't you look the other way? Just this once.
You played me for a sucker, Penny. I'm not going out like that. Not for you. Not anymore. Be at HQ first thing in the morning. Don't make me come get you. And one last thing, baby. That chicken was dry. Real dry.